Hi, everybody. It's CNC Realty Group, LoftsNHomes.com. It is another fabulous day here in Chicago. We have Drew Stiegemeier, Vice President of Lending Services with Molitor Financial Group, and he's joining us today on a brief overview of VA mortgages.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks again, Kyle, for having me come in to talk about something that really is near and dear to my heart. We love doing VA mortgages. They're a great product available for our servicemen and women. So a few quick VA facts. No down payment is required, and it says as long as the sales price doesn't exceed the appraised value. But really, I mean, that's one of the big highlights of this program. There is no down payment required. And the next big factor is there's no PMI requirement on these. These are fantastic products, and really it's something that's great that the VA offers these. They do a good job to protect the servicemen and women, even in the National Guard as well. But no down payment, no PMI. They really back off on what they charge for closing costs. All the lenders we work with actually do not charge an underwriting fee on their VA loans. So, that's saving you between $850 and $950 on your closing costs right there. And it even helps sometimes on title costs. The VA limits what they can do. It says closing costs may be paid by the seller, and that is true. The concessions work the same way as they do with, a FHA conventional loan. So you still can ask for a credit from the sellers to help offset the closing costs that are there. Another nice program is that VA will actually step in if you are having difficulties making your payments down the road. They provide a surety guarantee to the lenders, and this is something they can kind of help you out with as well. It's nice that they offer these homeowner counseling scenarios, and they will help you with that. Interest rates, and when I type this up, they really are running about 0.5% lower than conventional financing. It's just tremendous, that you can get a loan somewhere in the low to mid 3% as we talk right now, that will let you, with no mortgage insurance and all the other good stuff. The only hiccup kind of here in the city of Chicago is the condos associations must be approved for VA financing. That's something Kyle can help you with when you're out looking at properties. He has a list that he can find for the VA financing. It's something I can provide as well, but just make a note if you're looking at a condo, the association must be approved for the veterans financing. Let's talk a little bit about the requirements and the eligibility for a VA loan. We're going to talk mainly about, they call this the Gulf War still. I put in War on Terror because that's really kind of where we're at. That's basically from 1990 through the current day. They want to see 24 months of continuous active duty, no dishonorable discharge, obviously. 90 days completed for the full term for active duty. Again, no dishonorable discharge, and at least 90 days of active duty. If you were forced out for, any other reasons, and then less than 90 days if you're discharged due to a service-connected disability. So, and during peacetime, which was they were going to consider in the 80s, at least 181 continuous days of active duty. So what they're going to want to see is, that you've done this for at least 6 months of active duty, even in peacetime. And if you were disabled at any point, less than 181. And that's something we can talk about as well when we're determining your VA. And remember, selected reserve National Guard members, they want to see that you've had 6 years in, discharged with an honorable discharge if we're placed on the retired list, standby or the ready reserve, and, you continue to serve. So they want to make sure of all those things, but you will be eligible for VA benefits as well at that point. Others that are eligible that may not realize this, an unremarried spouse of a veteran, as long as they were, if they were killed in the line of service or had passed away from a service-related disabilities, they're still eligible for those VA benefits. And an unfortunate situation, but, if you're surviving wife of a service member who is a POW, you're also eligible. And you are a surviving spouse that is in receipt of the DIC, the compensation from the government, where the veteran's death was not service-connected, you're still eligible for these benefits. So quite a few people are eligible outside of just the veterans themselves, and that's something we can help with as well to determine your eligibility. VA-specific documentation, pretty simple stuff. If you were discharged, we'll need a copy of your DD-214. That's how we can determine your eligibility. If you're active duty, your current orders, which are simple, and then a certificate of eligibility. It can be obtained through the VA website. And some of the lenders we work with can request it on your behalf. We typically would like to see that at pre-approval time. So we may have you go online to get it through the VA. It is about a 10-minute process, so something I can help you guide through as well. So there is a funding fee with the VA. This is similar to the FHA program, but this is the way that you're able to get no mortgage insurance. They all require an upfront funding fee, which is typically financed in the loan, unless you are a veteran receiving compensation for a disability. Then you are not required to pay this fee. Or anyone with a service-related disability is going to be the one that does not have to pay the upfront fee. But as you can see in the chart below, for your first-time use for regular military, it's 2.15% of the purchase price up front, and it's just rolled into the loan. Doesn't typically have a huge impact, but if you put money down, that fee decreases. So it's something we can visit. If you're on the cusp of, well, I've got some money to put down, we can look at it to see if it makes sense. It may not make sense to liquefy all your cash to avoid the fee, especially with interest rates being where they're at right now and return on open market accounts where they're at. So it's something we'll visit, when we talk in person about this, but it's just something to be mindful. But this is how we get around without having to require PMI on these loans. So again, just to kind of reiterate these facts, no down payment, great. No mortgage insurance, even better. The fact that the VA protects you from the amount you can pay for closing costs is exceptional. Again, you can ask for a credit from the sellers. That works the same way, so they can offset all of it. Most VA loans that we do are veterans. I work it out so that they don't have to bring any money to the table. We try and get the maximum amount allowable back for them. It's something that we really try and strive at, to make sure that they're in the best spot. Interest rates are really good on these loans. Call me and we can talk more about that. The only kind of catch is that the associations must be approved for VA financing, but Kyle can help you find a building that is in for VA financing, and I'm more than happy to help you get the financing done for the condo for VA as well. So now I guess we have a few questions that came in from online, so I'm going to give it back to Kyle and see what we have.
Thanks, Drew. The first question comes from Demos. Is there a limit on how much closing costs can be paid by the seller for a VA loan?
No, the seller actually can cover all of it. We typically would ask for, no more than a 3% credit. Since the VA limits it, there's no point in, asking for more than what would be necessary, and you can't get a bunch of cash back at closing. It's only going to be what's on there. So we want to make sure that we ask for a proper amount that we will use, and not without reason. And it'll also help kind of make your offer stronger that, you may not have to ask for as large of a credit for a VA loan as you would for a conventional. So it's something we're mindful of and, something we can talk about once you get into the process and making it an offer. But, yeah, we typically wouldn't ask for anything more than 3%, and that's allowable on VA guidelines.
Next question comes from Sarah, 348. What if the condo association is not approved for VA financing, and do single-family homes without the association also need some sort of approval?
So unfortunately, if the association is not VA eligible, we cannot do a VA loan. So if we have to find a building that's VA eligible. Now, single-family homes, no such requirement. They're all wide open, ready to go. They have to pass the VA appraisal, which is a little bit more stringent than a conventional one. They're going to make sure that the building is structurally sound. They take a little bit more in-depth look than a conventional appraiser. But again, as long as you're in a solid property, the VA is going to lend money on it for a single-family home. But unfortunately, if your condo association is not approved with VA, cannot write a VA loan in the building.
Drew, can you talk about how the service, when they're in the military, is verified?
So as we talked a little bit earlier, for the certificate of eligibility, that is really what is determined for, what you're eligible with your VA financing. And again, the VA has come a long way. It used to be, we've got to call a number, send in a fax, but anymore it can be done online. Like I said before, it's a 10, 15-minute process. We can determine your eligibility, make sure that you're set for full benefits. This also helps determine, if you're the disability, so we may not have to charge the upfront fee. So again, it's something we want you to get beforehand, and it's something that I'm more than happy to walk you through to make sure you get it done and done without any hassles from the VA.
Great. Quote 1002 is asking, are there down payments required on the VA mortgages?
So there are no down payments that are required, as I said. Now, if you do put money down, the upfront funding fee can decrease. And again, that's something we'll visit because it may not make sense to liquidate your money, depending on the spread on the payment. That's something we'll talk about, but 95% of the VA loans that we do, the VA guarantee or benefit, they don't put any money down. And it really, that makes the most sense, especially since interest rates are low and the money you're making in the open market right now is way outpacing what you would ever loan it out at. So typically no, but yes, you can put money down and it can save you on the upfront fee.
Thanks, Drew. We got time for one last question. Chelsea is asking, her husband's currently deployed overseas. Can she still apply for a VA loan while he's away?
So we can look at the active duty, the service member on active duty, determine, the orders and his eligibility and, run the situation through the VA. It'll be sometimes a case by case, but again, it's something we can front run and talk about, and see if the service member's wife's eligible to do the loan while the service member is out. It all, again, depends on the eligibility, but it is something we can verify up front, and as long as everything, is backed by your certificate of eligibility, we can do the loan. So it's, again, something we'll front run, but yeah, that is something that'll obviously be in the cards for active members that are currently deployed.
So sort of follow up on that, if they're overseas, how do they sign for the closing documents and things like that?
Sometimes the VA will allow a remote closing depending on that, but traditionally in certain states, and I think Illinois is one, I know Illinois is one that requires a wet signature. They may have to plan around, when he's back on leave. But again, it's something we can, talk about and find the best possible scenario because it's not always ideal, when you're applying for the loan to make sure it's done. So, some lenders will allow a power of attorney to be drafted up in this situation to allow the signing on behalf of. But again, it'll be a case-by-case basis, and that's something we can talk about, as you get into the process.
Great, thanks. That's a great presentation and lots of great information for VA mortgages and for the different scenarios where that could be applied. So we look forward to working more with you on VA mortgages and searching for properties that are VA approved. This has been a presentation with Drew Stiegemeier over at Molitor Financial Group and CNC Realty Group, LoftsNHomes.com. If you like what we're doing here, please follow up on our social media that you can find the links on LoftsNHomes.com. And you could click on our YouTube, hit like and subscribe so you could get alerts on future training, webinars, and additional information that's available from CNC Realty Group, LoftsNHomes.com. Have a great one, folks.